Welcome to the Sleepy Historian, where history drifts gently into dreams. Tonight we step quietly into the soft, damp earth of a medieval village. The fog is low, curling around rough thatched roofs like a secret whispered by the morning. A rooster crows somewhere late as always. Beneath your blanket, scratchy woolen, slightly damp from last night's frost. You feel the chill seeping in from the floor. That floor, of course, is made of dirt. Not figuratively, real actual dirt. You could grow carrots in it, and one day someone might. You sit up slowly. The air smells of old smoke and damp straw. Your nose is cold, your back is cold, everything is cold. But that is just life in a 14th century English village. Honestly, you probably will not survive this statistically speaking, but hey, no pressure. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you are at it, why not post your location and the local time in the comments? I love seeing where and when you are listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are awake though, just barely. The dawn light slips through the cracks in the wooden shutters. There is no glass, of course. Glass is for cathedrals and castles. Your hut is held together by mud wattle and the unspoken understanding that no one leans too hard against the walls. Your breath makes small clouds in the air. You can see it. That is how you know it is morning. The blanket falls away, and you swing your legs over the side of the bed. The mattress is stuffed with straw, which rustles like a field in late summer, though it smells more like mildew and mice. You hope today is not the day you find another one curled beneath your knees. Your toes touch the ground bare because shoes are precious and only worn outside. The dirt floor is hard-packed and cool. A few stones poke through. One of them is sharp, and you will definitely forget it is there until tomorrow morning, too. There is no mirror, but you know what you look like. Pale, lean, maybe a bit muddy even in sleep. Your hair is longer than you would like, and your teeth ache, though you pretend not to notice. Everyone's teeth ache. It is just another flavor of the Middle Ages. Outside the village is waking up too. You hear hooves clopping on the frozen path, some poor soul already off to fetch water or chase a wayward pig. A dog barks, a baby cries. A church bell tolls, once echoing across the fields like the village's slow heartbeat. You dress. Your tunic is the same one you wore yesterday and the day before. It smells like smoke and sweat and the faint tang of boiled cabbage. You shrug it on and reach for your belt or rope, really. It does the job. On the wall, a wooden peg holds your hooded cloak, wool scratchy and roughly dyed with walnut husks or maybe onion skins. The color is somewhere between brown and sadness. But it is warm, and that is what matters. You push the wooden door open. Its sticks is always swollen from the damp. Outside, the morning greets you with a breath of mist and the distant clatter of a cart. The village smells like wood smoke, dung, and wet leaves. It is oddly comforting, familiar, like the back of your hand if your hand had worms in it, which frankly it might. Your home stands in a small cluster of similar huts, wooden frames, thatched roofs, low doors. Chimneys are rare, so most houses are smoky inside. You wonder if lungs can get used to that, or if they just give up eventually. Historians still argue whether indoor smoke or famine killed more peasants. You suspect it depends on the month. A few steps from your door is the animal pen. You share this yard with a pig, a couple of chickens, and if you are lucky, a goat that hates you personally. The pig eyes you with suspicion. You nod back mutual understanding. There is no timepiece, no rooster that actually knows what it is doing. But your stomach is already reminding you that it is morning. Breakfast time. Or rather, first eating, since meals are less about time and more about opportunity. But we are not there yet. First, you kneel by the stream that snakes past the village. It is narrow, a little brown, and carries yesterday's gossip from upstream. You splash your face with the icy water. It smells faintly of iron and moss. Your skin tightens in response, and you exhale through your teeth. Washed, sort of, you glance toward the chapel on the hill. Its bell tower is squat but proud. The priest will be up soon, muttering Latin into the fog, feeding his soul, while the rest of you chew on roots. You nod toward it more out of habit than devotion. God is watching, but he seems especially busy these days. You return inside to find your younger brother poking at the fire. It is down to embers. The smoke curls upward, seeking cracks in the thatch. You cough once, then again. Your mother hands you a wooden bowl with a gesture that says, "Do not complain." Inside, gruel. Barley may be oats. Maybe it is mostly water. It tastes like hot, wet nothing, which is actually preferable to some of the flavors you will meet later today. Still, it is warm. You eat it slowly. The wooden spoon has a crack in it, and you avoid the splintered edge out of reflex. The dog watches every bite, tail thumping hopefully. He will lick the bowl clean once you are done. After breakfast, you step outside again. The fog has lifted slightly, revealing low hills in the distance. They are covered in frost, glittering like a miser's hoard. You know them well. You have walked those ridges in summer, barefoot, felt the thistles between your toes and the sun on your shoulders. But now they are white and quiet and waiting. You trudge past other villagers already at work. A woman kneels near a puddle, scrubbing a rag against a stone. A boy chases a goose with the desperate energy of someone who lost a bet. An old man sharpens a scythe with a stone that is more hope than tool. The day has begun, and you are alive. The gruel in your stomach has settled into a patient weight, quiet but firm. It is not satisfaction. It is more like agreement. Your body accepts the offering and promises not to faint for now. You tie your cloak tighter as the wind threads through the village paths, carrying the smells of smoke-wet straw and something faintly animal. Probably the pig again. You are not headed anywhere special, just into the rhythm of the day. But you start walking because standing still in this cold is not an option. You make your way toward the center of the village, or what passes for one. A patch of dirt with more footprints than grass, a couple of wooden benches that might once have been wagon parts, and the constant cluck of someone's escaped chicken. A few neighbors are already up. A woman with a crooked back carries a basket slung against her hip full of leeks and potatoes. She nods at you but does not speak. A boy is digging in the mud with a stick. No one asks why. A young man squats by a low fire, turning something over in a pan that smells like onions and salt. You envy him briefly and then move on. Food is always present but rarely plentiful. This morning is no exception. You reach for a hard crust of bread tucked into your belt. It is yesterday's crust, possibly the day before's. You hold it in your hand and consider it. There are no worms. That is already a good sign. You bite into it carefully, the way you might bite into a stone if it owed you money. Bread is your anchor, usually coarse dark, made of rye or barley. On very good days, it might contain wheat. On very bad days, it might contain crushed beans, ground acorns, or flower petals someone swears are edible. You chew. It tastes like memory, like every other morning. You remember once during a poor harvest, your cousin tried making bread with mashed roots and dried nettle. It turned green and fell apart in the oven. You all ate it anyway. He had a rash for a week. Historians still debate how creative medieval peasants became with bread making during famines. You do not need a scholar to tell you how low desperation can go. You soften the crust in your mouth with a bit of ale from your leather flask. The ale is thin sour, barely stronger than water, but safer than the stream. The stream carries stories and diseases in equal measure. Someone nearby sneezes. You pause your chewing and glance over. The man wipes his nose with the back of his sleeve and keeps walking. No one says anything. Everyone noticed. You finish the crust dust off your fingers and start walking toward the fields. The path is more mud than soil, now rutted by carts and hoof prints slick from last night's frost. You step carefully, but not too carefully. Mud on your boots is just part of the costume. The fields stretch out beyond the village like tired limbs, narrow and long. Each family has a few strips, sometimes scattered across the hillside. Yours are on the edge. You know them well. One is flat and generous. One is rocky and uncooperative. The third you suspect is cursed, but you would never say so aloud. Not since the priest overheard your aunt say it last year and gave her a week of silent stares. You reach the edge of the nearest field and retrieve your tools from under a tarp. That is not really a tarp, but an old wool blanket patched with goat hide. Your spade is wooden-handled, iron-tipped, slightly bent. You have used it long enough that the grip fits your hand like a handshake. Your hoe is shorter with a blade that was sharpened last spring. It will need it again soon. No gloves, just skin cold and cracked, hardened by years of friction. You begin to work. The soil is stiff, still clinging to winter. Each stroke of the hoe breaks the crust with a reluctant thud. You dig, you heave, you clear. Not for planting, not yet. Just to prepare, to remind the land you are still here. Beside you, a neighbor curses softly as his foot slips into a rut. You glance up. It is Thomas the carpenter's eldest. He smiles sheepishly and wipes his hands on his tunic. You nod. The exchange is brief but friendly. Words are used sparingly in the fields as if you are all trying to conserve even those. Your ox is not with you today. He is lame again, a swelling in his leg that refuses to heal. You wonder how many more days he has left. You also wonder how many more days you can go without him before the Lord notices your yield has dropped. The Lord does not ask questions. He just counts grain. A boy walks past leading a donkey with a limp. You consider that a good omen. At least your ox is not limping alone. The morning continues in a slow rhythm of digging, lifting, resting, then digging again. Your arms begin to ache, not sharply, just the steady kind of ache that has lived there for years. The sky is still overcast, but light is seeping through in streaks now. Somewhere above, a crow calls. You look up and see two more, 3 crows. You try to remember whether that is good luck or bad. You settle on neutral. A brief break comes when someone brings out a small pot of lentil mash. It is warm. You dip 2 fingers in and scoop out a bite. Earthy, thick, salted with something that might be actual salt. You savor it. A second scoop is offered, but you shake your head. Others need it too. You return to work with a little more energy. The next stretch of soil is softer. You dig with more rhythm, now your movement syncing with your breath syncing with the bird song that has begun faintly in the nearby trees. The trees themselves sit just beyond the Lord's boundary line. The forest is tempting but dangerous. The animals in it are his. So are the mushrooms, berries, and even the deadwood. Taking anything can bring fines or worse. Still, you know people who slip in at dusk, who bring back handfuls of wild garlic and stories they will not repeat. You once helped drag back a fallen deer from that forest ribs cracked and frozen. The meat fed half the village. The smell haunted you for days, a strange mix of gratitude and guilt. You shake the memory loose and return to the dirt. A beetle crawls out from under your spade and vanishes. You let it go. Today is not a day for killing anything without reason. Midday comes, marked not by a bell, but by the slowing of bodies. People pause, sit on rocks or stumps, drink from shared flasks, rub sore joints. You sit too, stretch your back until it pops and breathe deeply. The cold air no longer bites as hard. Your body is warm now, warmed by effort. Someone sings a few lines of a tune. Others join softly. The song is old, older than the village. You hum along not because you know the words, but because the sound is something to hold on to. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, just to rest. You picture the field full of wheat, golden and waving. You picture a loaf of bread that does not break teeth. You picture stew thick enough to hide a spoon. Then someone coughs, sharp and rough. You open your eyes again, and you keep digging, because the earth does not wait. And neither does hunger. Your hands are already blistering, though you try not to notice. The tool's wooden handle rubs the same spots on your palm each morning, and though calluses cover most of the damage, the cold makes everything feel raw again. You shift your grip slightly, hoping it will help, knowing it probably will not. You dig deeper this time. The blade strikes something soft and pulpy, a patch of old roots rotted from the frost. You clear them aside and shake the clumps of soil off your tool. This is what most of your day will look like. One clump of earth at a time. One stubborn weed, one silent hour, one ache in your spine that reminds you it never left. The animals nearby seem to know what kind of day it will be. The goats are restless, their hooves tapping on frozen ground, and the chickens are unusually loud. One of them hops onto a stone and stares at you, clucking like it has something to say. You stare back, it blinks first. Just beyond the edge of your strip, a pair of oxen drag a plow through thicker soil. They move slowly, deliberately, their breath steaming. The man guiding them is red-faced and muttering under his breath. His tunic is soaked from his own sweat, even though the morning is still brisk. You feel a pang of envy, not for the work, but for the oxen. A strong pair like that can double your yield. That means more grain for your family and a better offering for the manor. Speaking of the manor, you glance up toward the hill where its roofline is just visible beyond the trees. Stone walls, proper, chimney-glazed windows. The Lord's house looks like something out of a painting. You have never been inside, though you have been close enough to smell the roasted meats coming from the kitchen. That was on tax day. Tax day is always a good reminder that nothing you grow is truly yours. Once a season, sometimes twice, a steward arrives to collect. You owe him a portion of your harvest, a few eggs, maybe a chicken if you have one to spare. If not, he might take something else, a tool, a blanket. Last year, your cousin's wife offered her embroidery and he took it. Smiled while doing it too. You get back to your work. The soil is looser now, easier to turn. You use the moment to enjoy the rare rhythm when your body seems to know what to do without you asking. Dig, twist, lift, toss. Dig, twist, lift, toss. It is almost musical. Almost. Behind you, a voice calls out. You turn to see your uncle motioning toward the fence. One of the pigs has squeezed through a gap again and is now trotting gleefully toward the compost pile like it just won a prize. You wipe your hands, trot after it, and eventually corner the beast near a heap of rotting cabbage leaves. It squeals, offended. You drag it back by the rope around its neck, cursing softly as your foot slides in something that is probably manure. Your uncle laughs. You do not. Back in the field, the work slows. The sun is higher now, and with it comes the hint of warmth. It makes the frost on the ground melt into sludge. Your shoes are soaked, but at least the mud is easier to handle. Someone nearby is repairing a fence post, hammering crooked nails into old wood. The sound carries across the field like a metronome. You fall into step with it. Another man walks past with a cart full of stones. They are building something at the edge of the village, a new wall perhaps, or another storage shed. You forget which. Building and rebuilding are just part of the cycle, like planting and praying and watching your breath fog in the morning air. You pause to drink from your flask again. The ale is warmer now, almost comforting. You let it sit on your tongue, then swallow slowly. You close your eyes and listen. Birds distant, a shovel scraping stone. A faint tune hummed by someone you cannot see. You let it all blend together into something that feels like a lullaby. Then someone calls your name. You blink. It is your younger brother. His arms full of kindling, his face flushed. He drops the bundle near the communal oven and gives you a quick nod. He has been gathering firewood since dawn. You wave at him. He waves back. You both return to your tasks. Later, the village priest walks past. He is wearing heavy robes and muttering from a small book. His boots are cleaner than yours. He stops briefly, blesses the field with a vague gesture, and continues on. You wonder if he even knows your name. Probably not. Work continues. You switch to the other field strip, now the rocky one. Your shoulders sigh. The soil here is reluctant, thin and full of stones that do not belong. You dig anyway. Dig, not because it will yield much, but because if you do not, someone will say something, and then someone else will notice, and eventually it will cost you. You remember when a neighbor was fined for letting his plot go untended for too long. He was sick, could barely walk. The steward still took a goose from him. Some say it was personal. Others say the steward just liked goose. Historians still argue whether commoners truly owned their land. Some say yes. Others insist it was just a loan from the manor held in place by custom and pressure. You say it does not matter. If someone can take it from you, it was never really yours. You pry another rock from the dirt. It is white, almost chalky, shaped like a misshapen skull. You toss it aside, and a nearby boy picks it up, turning it over in his hand. He puts it in his pocket without a word. Maybe it is lucky. Maybe he just likes skull-shaped things. The sun is beginning to dip. Not low enough to stop, but enough to make you look up and think about stopping. You are sore now all over. Your feet itch from the wool. Your back feels like it has been twisted and left to dry. You stretch, feel something pop, and decide that is good enough for today. You gather your tools and begin the walk home. The mud is colder now, the light softer. A rooster calls out late again. Smoke rises from several chimneys, now thick and gray. You smell stew. It is probably turnip. You hope for meat, though you expect none. At the edge of the village, a man is carving something into a beam. Not art, just a tally mark, a way to count something. Maybe days, maybe debts, maybe blessings. Hard to say. You nod at him. He nods back. That is enough. As you reach your door, you feel the ache set in for real. The kind that does not go away with rest. The kind that just becomes part of you, like your name or your hunger. Inside, the fire is low but lit. The room smells like cabbage and ash. Your mother stirs a pot. Your sister mends a tunic. The baby is crying softly, tired of being tired. You sit by the hearth and stretch your legs toward the warmth. Dinner will come soon. It will not be much, but it will be enough. And then tomorrow you will do it all again. Because that is what you do. Because you are a peasant. Because you survive. You wake the next morning not because you are rested, but because your body simply ran out of stillness. The cold has crept into your bones overnight, and your back reminds you of every stone, every shovelful, every bend and twist from the day before. There is no real line between sleep and waking anymore, just softer moments and louder ones. The fire has gone out, no surprise. Ashes sit quiet in the hearth like they are waiting for someone to regret not feeding them. You sit up, rub your face with both hands, and let out a slow breath. Your fingers are stiff. One knee pops. You listen to it carefully, still working, just louder now. Today you will head back to the fields, but not quite yet. First there is animal duty. You step outside into the fog. The sky is heavy and low. The air feels thick like it has not moved all night. Somewhere nearby, a cow moans softly. You recognize the voice. It belongs to the only animal in the village that makes milk regularly and occasionally remembers your face. You trudge to the pens. Your boots are still damp from yesterday. They will be damp tomorrow. They always are. Inside the pen, the chickens are awake. They blink at you from their perches with tiny, judgmental eyes. One hops down and pecks at a spot near your foot. There is nothing there, but she pecks anyway. You scatter a few handfuls of feed, cracked grain mostly. A few old crumbs from yesterday's crust. The chickens dive in like they have not eaten in a week. They probably have not. Hunger is the village's most faithful companion, never loud, never absent. Next are the pigs. They grunt at you with the familiarity of bored relatives. One of them, the big one with the torn ear, shoves his way forward and sniffs your hands. You nudge him back with a firm palm. He is stronger than you. Everyone knows it. You try not to show that you know it too. You empty the slop bucket into the trough. The smell rises fast and earthy. A mix of cabbage stems, oat chaff, and the occasional bit of scraped bone. The pigs do not mind. They eat with gusto. You admire their optimism. A dog trots by. Yours technically, though, you suspect he belongs more to the idea of the village than to any one household. He is lean, yellow-eyed, and covered in scars from old fights. He gives you a nod in his own way, then plops down in a patch of sun that barely exists. Now comes the worst part. You need to clean the pen. You find the rake and start the slow, unpleasant ritual of dragging out the filth. Wet straw, old droppings, bits of who knows what. You do not gag. You stopped gagging years ago. The smell clings to your cloak. It will stay with you until next wash day, which might be next week, might be never. Historians still debate how often peasants actually wash their clothes. Some say weekly, others say only when lice migrated out of pity. You drag the filth to the edge of the yard and dump it on the compost heap. Steam rises. It is the warmest thing you have seen all morning. Next to the pen, your cousin is tying a yoke onto his mule. The beast does not seem thrilled about it. Neither does your cousin. You wave. He grunts back. That is the morning greeting. If someone says an actual word, you might think something terrible has happened. Back at your door, your sister is feeding the baby. She hums a tune under her breath. The same tune your mother hummed. The same tune your grandmother probably hummed too. It is not really a lullaby. It is more like a spell to make the day start slowly. You sit near the hearth again and take your place in the rotation. A small bowl is handed to you. Inside, a ladle of thin barley porridge and half a boiled onion. You stir it with the wooden spoon that has a bite mark in it. No one knows who bit it. Everyone denies it. You eat slowly, letting the warmth spread through your chest like a candle. It does not taste like much, but it fills you. That is all you ask for. That is all you can ask for. Your brother comes in from the well arms, dripping. The bucket handle left a red mark across his palm. He sets it down and says nothing. You nod at him. He nods back. The water is cold. You drink a mouthful, trying not to think about what might be in it. Outside, the sun is starting to break through. The fog lifts just enough for you to see the trees at the edge of the woods. A blackbird sits on a post, cleaning its wing with methodical precision. You envy it a little. Its job seems simpler. The animals are fed. The house is warm. The fire crackles again thanks to your sister's careful hands. You feel the day begin, not with a bang, but a breath. It is time to work. But not in the fields today. Today is tool day. You retrieve your small bundle from the storage shed. A hammer, a dull file, and the blade of your spade chipped from last week's stones. You sit on a stool and begin the process of sharpening, cleaning, and praying the iron lasts one more season. The blade catches the light as you file. You press it against the stone in small, steady movements. Sparks flicker. The edge begins to show again. You run your thumb across it carefully. Not sharp, but not dull either. It will do. Across the path, someone is oiling a yoke. The wood creaks as it flexes. Another man is checking the axle on a cart. A child nearby is trying to repair a cracked pot with mud and string. You watch him for a moment, then hand him a bit of twine from your pocket. He smiles. You nod. You take your blade and begin to reattach it to the handle. The iron socket groans but holds. You bind it tightly with leather strips, once part of your old shoe. Nothing is wasted. Everything has a second life, or a third. You test the tool with a few firm swings into the earth. It bites cleanly. Good enough. You hang it by the door, ready for tomorrow. You still have time before dusk. You decide to collect kindling. The Lord allows it, but only twigs. No branches. No chopping. The rules are many and enforced more strictly than anyone expects. You walk along the path that curves near the manor boundary. The trees are tall, silent. You pick up dry sticks, snapping them over your knee. Some are damp and bend. You toss those aside. The good ones go into your bundle. As you walk, you find an old footprint in the mud. A child, small and delicate, pointing toward the woods. You glance toward the trees. The wind rustles the leaves. You listen. No voices, no footsteps. Just the quiet hush of the forest watching you. You turn back. The bundle is full now. Enough for tonight and maybe tomorrow morning. You tie it tight with twine and haul it onto your shoulder. The weight is familiar. Back at the house, the sun is lower. The sky turns the color of worn parchment. Smoke from the chimney curls upward in lazy ribbons. Inside, the fire is strong. The pot on the hearth smells of leeks and something sweet, maybe parsnip. Your mother stirs it with slow circles. The baby sleeps. Your brother naps, head tilted back against the wall. You place the bundle of sticks near the hearth. Your sister nods in approval. She ladles out dinner. This time there is a scrap of meat in it. Probably rabbit, possibly rat. You do not care. You savor it. After eating, you stretch out near the fire. The warmth lulls you. Your fingers twitch, remembering the shape of the spade. Your feet rest on a patch of wool. The dog curls beside you, breathing evenly. Outside, the last light fades. The chickens settle. The pig sighs. The wind hums low through the cracks in the roof. You close your eyes and wait for tomorrow. You wake before the sun. There is no need for an alarm when your neighbors start moving like clockwork, shuffling across packed dirt floors, banging doors that never quite fit their frames, coughing into the cold air with the rasp of people who live too close to smoke and too far from medicine. The sound of a rooster echoes faintly. You cannot see him, but you know which one it is. The one that crows too early, then again for good measure, as if reminding himself. You listen for the bells from the chapel tower, but hear nothing yet. The priest must still be dozing beneath his heavy blankets. He always sleeps better than the rest of you. You pull on your tunic and cloak fingers fumbling with the ties. The fabric is cold stiff from yesterday's sweat, but it softens as you move. Your boots are where you left them beside the hearth and still damp, always damp. You step outside and the chill clings to your skin like wet linen. The morning is foggy, damp with a promise of drizzle. Clouds hang low enough to touch, and your breath forms brief ghosts before vanishing into the pale light. The village is slowly waking. A woman walks past with a basket on her hip. Her expression says she has already been up for hours. A man leads a mule with a cracked hoof toward the far field. He nods at you just once. The language of morning is mostly silence. No one tells you what time it is. You just know by the sounds, the smell of smoke, the shifting light, the sudden call of crows from the chapel eaves. Time is not measured in minutes. It is marked by bells, animals, and the way porridge thickens in the pot. You walk to the edge of the village and hear the first clear sound of the day, the bell. A deep, low chime rolls across the damp fields. It is not a call to prayer, not exactly. It is a reminder that the day has begun, that you have things to do, that there is a rhythm to life, and this is the beat. You stop to watch the priest walk from his little house beside the chapel. His robes flutter as he moves, though there is no breeze. He looks tired but pious, always tired, always pious. The chapel stands like a worn tooth at the edge of the village. It is simple stone moss covered, its wooden door swollen with damp. The bell tower leans just a little to one side as if listening. Inside, you know the walls are dark with soot lit by tallow candles that drip more smoke than light. The air smells like dust and whispered confessions. You do not go in, not today. Today you listen from outside, as most do. The bells mark more than the time. They divide the day into moments. Prime terse sex nones. You do not remember what they all mean, but you know when they sound you must stop, breathe, move again. The second bell chimes. Somewhere behind you someone drops a bucket. A goat bleats in protest. You begin walking again. At the communal oven, two women are arguing over whose dough goes in next. They do not raise their voices. They just repeat their claims until someone else steps in to settle it. The oven is the heart of the village even more than the chapel. Bread binds more lives than prayers. The oven itself is squat and wide, shaped like a sleeping beast. Smoke curls from its mouth. The inside glows orange when the door swings open. You can feel the warmth on your cheeks from where you stand. You do not bake today, but you help carry bundles of kindling. The women thank you without looking. You nod. That is enough. Beside the oven, a small boy sits with a sack of flour across his knees. He is tracing shapes in the dust. A fish. A circle. A badger, maybe. You smile. He does not notice. The bell rings again. It is shorter this time, more of a reminder than a declaration. You glance toward the chapel. The priest is still inside. A faint chant escapes through the cracked window, Latin words sung slowly. You recognize none of them, but the sound is calming like rain on a roof. You walk past the chapel and toward the well. A woman is pulling up water in a creaky bucket. She offers you the next turn. You take it, lower the bucket, carefully feel it hit the water, lift it up, and pour it into a waiting jug. The water is clear today, cold and sharp on your fingers. The woman thanks you. You nod. She walks away with the jug balanced expertly on her shoulder. You watch her disappear down the path, her steps matching the beat of the bells still echoing faintly. You carry your own bucket back toward the house. It sways with each step, water sloshing softly. You pass the same chicken from yesterday. She glares at you. You nod in respect. Back inside, your mother is kneading dough. Her hands are dusted white. Her sleeves are rolled high. She works without speaking, the rhythm of her knuckles pressing into the dough like a prayer. You place the water beside her and step back. Your sister hums again. The same tune. Always the same tune. The baby claps. You sit by the hearth and watch the flames. The fire is small today. Firewood is low again. You will need to gather more soon, or borrow, or trade. Outside, the bell rings again. The village begins to move faster. The time for sitting is over. You rise slowly, stretch your back until it complains, then walk out again into the morning light. The clouds have thinned slightly. A A patch of pale blue peeks through, a good sign maybe. You head toward the pasture now where the goats are waiting. They gather near the fence, chewing and judging. You climb over, crouch down, and begin the dance of milking. One goat cooperates, one does not. One tries to eat your sleeve. You laugh once softly. It feels strange in your throat. The milk goes into a wooden pail. It smells faintly sweet, earthy warm. You carry it carefully back to the house. Along the way, you pass a young girl carrying herbs in her apron. She waves. You wave back. The bells chime again. The 6th time today. You cannot remember which one it is. Maybe sexed, maybe just another reminder. At the house, the dough has risen. Your mother smiles just a little. You pour the milk into a jug. Your sister tastes it and nods. Outside, someone starts singing. You do not know the tune, but you hum along anyway, because the day is moving, because the bells are ringing, because you are still here, and that is enough. You do not have a coin to your name, but somehow you owe more than you own. That is how it works in this village and in every other one like it. You work the land, you feed the animals, you pray when you remember, and when the steward comes knocking, you give. The manor looms on the low hill, its shadow long, even in early afternoon. The road that leads to it is worn but better maintained than the village paths. Someone patched it last summer with stones from a broken wall. You remember that wall? It used to hold back the sheep. Now it does not hold anything. You carry a sack over your shoulder. Inside a dozen turnips still dusty from the soil, 1 salted trout caught illegally 2 nights ago, and 3 eggs. You debated whether to give the eggs. They are precious. Your youngest brother cried when you took them from the hen's nest, but the steward demands his share, and if you offer too little, there are consequences. The manor gate creaks as you push it open. It is not locked. It never is. No one in the village would dare steal from the lord. Not because they fear his sword, they fear his fines more. You walk up the path, eyes on the ground. You pass a carved stone well with ivy curling around its base. A fat cat lounges on the rim. You consider whether it is a pet or just a very confident rat catcher. Either way, it seems better fed than you. The manor house is made of stone, 2 stories with real glass in the upper windows. You stop to stare. The panes shimmer like trapped water. You have never touched glass before. It seems too delicate for this world. The steward meets you before you knock. He always knows when someone is coming. Probably from the window. Probably while sipping something warm. He looks at your sack, not at your face. He opens it, pokes through the turnips, lifts 1 egg to the light, then sets it back down. He says nothing for a long moment, then makes a small grunting noise that could mean anything. He turns and walks back inside. You know better than to follow. You place the sack on the ground beside the others already piled there, a few bundles of dried herbs, a jar of cloudy honey, a pair of worn gloves, payment in all its shabby forms. You turn to leave, then hear your name. The steward's voice. You stop. Wait. He steps back out, holding something wrapped in cloth. He throws it to you. You catch it awkwardly. Inside is a heel of bread still warm, a scrap from the Lord's table. The steward waves you off like you are a dog who has begged long enough. You nod. You do not thank him. That would only encourage him. Back on the road, you unwrap the bread and break it in half. It smells like rosemary. There's a hint of fat on the crust. You take a bite. It is the best thing you have eaten in weeks. The wind picks up as you walk home. It carries the smell of damp leaves and something burning. Someone is clearing brush on the far side of the village. The smoke curls across the sky like a ribbon. You pass the tanner's hut where hides hang from wooden frames like stretched-out ghosts. The smell is strong, thick with lye and old death. You hold your breath and walk faster. At the edge of the village, you pass the blacksmith's forge. He is bent over a blade, sparks flying with each strike. His arms are dark with soot, his hair wet with sweat. He does not look up, but he nods once as you pass. You nod back. You pause at the edge of the field where your sister is gathering herbs. She holds a bundle of marigold and sage. You offer her the second half of the bread. Her eyes widen. She takes it with both hands. You sit beside her for a moment and eat together in silence. She tells you the Lord's daughter rode through the village earlier, on a white horse with silk ribbons in her hair. She did not speak to anyone, just passed by. Your sister says she looked like a painting. You try to imagine what that would feel like to be seen as beautiful and untouchable. You cannot. You stand and brush crumbs from your lap. Your sister tucks the last bite of bread into her apron. She will save it for later, maybe for the baby. The sun is lower now. The sky is turning a pale orange, fading toward dusk. You head back to the house to check the fire. Inside, your brother is dozing near the hearth, feet propped on a stool, a piece of straw sticking out of his mouth like he is pretending to be a farmer instead of a peasant. You nudge him gently. He grunts and rolls over. The pot on the fire smells of garlic and something green, probably wild nettles. Your mother stirs it slowly, humming that same tune again. You almost hum along but stop yourself. Later, the steward's man will ride through again. He always comes at sunset to check who is behind on their duties. He carries a long stick and a list. He never speaks unless there is trouble. You keep your head down when he rides by. He does not stop. This time, you exhale. Tonight, after the fire is banked and the children are sleeping, you will mend your boots. The soul is starting to pull away again. You will sit by the dim light of a rush candle and sew with twine, hoping the patch holds through winter. You think about the manor again, about the Lord's daughter riding past like a cloud, about the warm bread and the steward's face, about how much you gave for how little you got. Historians still argue whether medieval lords truly understood how their peasants lived, whether they believed the offerings they received were easy to give, whether they ever looked past the sacks and saw the people behind them. You are not a historian. You are just tired. You lie down, eyes heavy. The fire crackles low. The pig outside snorts once and goes quiet. And you sleep. Because tomorrow the steward comes again, and you must have something to offer. The scent of meat drifts through the air like a ghost you are not sure is real. You pause mid-step, eyes narrowing, nose lifting slightly like a hound on the scent. It is faint, but unmistakable. Fat, sizzling herbs, simmering something roasting slowly in a pan that does not belong to anyone you know. You look around. The smell is not coming from the village hearths. Those still produce the usual aromas: burnt oats, turnip mash, the tang of boiled cabbage. No, the scent is richer, fuller. You glance uphill toward the manor. Of course, a feast is happening. The news spreads in that silent, wordless way that only hunger can transmit. By the time you reach the well, half the village is already glancing up toward the hill with that same far-off look. You hear someone mutter something about a wedding. Someone else guesses a visiting noble. It does not matter. The result is the same. The Lord is feasting, and you are not. You return home, but your stomach lingers in that scent trail. Inside, your mother is scraping the last of the barley into the pot. She adds water, stirs it with practiced disappointment, and sprinkles a pinch of dried herbs to make it feel like a new recipe. You sit beside the hearth, trying not to mention the smell, but your sister does first. She asks if they might share leftovers. You smile without teeth. No one shares a feast with the village. Still, you cannot help imagining it. Roasted pheasant, perhaps, or a whole pig glazed with honey. A tray of soft cheese just warm enough to spread. Bread that cracks delicately under your teeth instead of breaking them. Bowls of berries still dusted with dew. Apples sliced and dipped in something sweet. Butter, real butter melting into thick stews and painted across pastry crusts. You have never eaten any of these things, but you have heard them described. Once a traveling friar listed every course he'd tasted at a bishop's table. He told the story like a priest reciting scripture. You listened with wide eyes, your mouth watering more with each sentence. You still remember how he said the goose skin crackled when sliced, how the wine had tasted like velvet and pepper. Your own dinner tonight will not crackle. It might gurgle briefly, a pale gray stew too thin to float anything too thick to drink. You take your bowl, thank your mother, and sit on the floor with your knees up. The warmth from the pot is enough to soothe your fingers at least. Outside, the faint sound of music drifts down the hill. A lute or maybe a flute and something like clapping. Not applause, no. Clapping in rhythm to dancing, maybe. The kind of music no one in the village dances to. You eat slower, chewing air between bites to make it last longer. After supper, you walk outside and follow the path that skirts the edge of the village. You are not alone. A few others are there too, pretending to walk somewhere, but really just drawn by the distant sound of joy. You reach a small rise where the trees thin enough to see the manor's back windows. Light pours from them, golden flickering like the sun remembered how to shine and chose this moment to return. Inside you glimpse shadows. People moving plates, lifted arms raised in laughter or command. You think you see a roast bird on the table, but it might be your imagination. Someone beside you swears softly under their breath. Someone else starts singing an old work song loud enough to cover the music, bitter enough to sour the night. You step back from the ridge and return to your hut. The village grows quiet as the feast continues. A few children cry out in their sleep. A goat bleats once. The wind picks up and carries the scent away, replacing it with something sour and wet. Probably the compost pile. You try to sleep, but your stomach is restless. Not from hunger alone. From the knowledge that a world exists, just uphill behind walls and candles and linen curtains. A world where someone could leave a crust untouched. Where people wipe their mouths with cloth instead of sleeves. Historians still debate how aware peasants were of noble life. Some argue that they had no frame of reference, no longing for what they never saw. Others insist the contrast was plain and painful, sharpened by every feast, every tax, every stolen egg. You decide the second group is right. You may not know what velvet tastes like, but you know what it is to feel empty. The next day, the village wakes slower, maybe in protest, maybe in resignation. You walk past the steward's house and see a cart stacked with empty trays and wooden cups. The scraps of a night you never saw. A bone with meat still clinging to it sits near the edge. The dog is already there. He growls when you step too close. You let him have it. He has better luck than you. A boy you do not recognize walks past chewing something. His tunic is clean. He smells of rosemary and smoke. He must be a servant from the manor. He looks at you once, then away, already bored. You head to the field early. The soil is wet and smells metallic. You plunge your spade into it with more force than usual. The earth accepts it. The work begins. You lose yourself in the repetition. Dig. Toss. Straighten. Repeat. You think of the feast less with time. The smell fades. Your hands grow sore again. That helps. At midday, you sit under the same tree as always. You eat a small round of bread with a smear of onion paste. It tastes better than you expect. You eat every crumb. Later, someone offers you a cup of ale. You take it sip and feel the warmth spread across your chest. Not a feast, but a kindness. By sunset, the manor is silent again. The shutters are closed. The road is empty. Life has returned to its usual rhythm. You walk home as the stars appear blinking one by one in the blue-gray sky. At the house, the fire is low but steady. Your sister is humming. The baby is asleep. Your mother is bent over a torn hem needle flashing in the firelight. You sit down beside them and close your eyes. And you imagine a table. It is not long, it is not rich, but everyone you know has a seat at it, and that is enough, for now. You wake to the sound of scratching, not outside, not in the walls, but right there beneath your tunic. Lice, again. They are small, determined things crawling along your scalp, behind your ears, down the nape of your neck like they own the place. You run your fingers through your hair and scratch hard, digging just enough to quiet the itch without drawing blood. You are not surprised. No one in the village is ever truly free of them. They are part of life, like hunger and cold. You rise and step outside, rubbing sleep from your eyes as you lean against the doorframe. The sky is washed in gray. The fog has returned, wrapping the village in a hushed stillness. Somewhere nearby, a rooster clears its throat but never finishes its crow. You reach down and scoop up a handful of cold water from the bucket left outside. You splash your face and gasp quietly. The cold is a slap, but it helps. You rub your neck, then shake out your cloak. Lice do not like motion, but they are clever. They will find their way back. They always do. Inside, your sister is brushing her hair with a bone comb. She tilts her head and taps it on the table. A few lice fall out and crawl in frantic circles. She wipes them away with a damp cloth and keeps combing. You sit beside her and do the same. No one speaks. Marriage is a strange thing here. No ceremony, not unless the priest feels like getting involved. Mostly it begins with two people quietly deciding to share chores, blankets, and the occasional smile. And lice, of course. Nothing says romance like taking turns combing each other's heads. You remember a local tale about a couple who fell in love because they both had the same flea bite in the same spot. Fate, they called it. Or just shared straw. Historians still argue whether medieval peasants had time for love. Some say it was rare, a luxury of the idle. Others claim love bloomed wherever people shared suffering. You believe the second. It is hard not to fall in love with the only person who sees you at your worst and stays anyway. You finish combing and tie your hair back with a frayed strip of linen. You splash water on the comb and set it by the fire to dry. The lice will be back tomorrow, but for now, the scalp is quiet. Outside, your cousin Thomas is patching a hole in the chicken coop. He waves, then points to a young hen perched stubbornly on the thatch roof. You shrug. She will come down when she is hungry. You remember when Thomas was married, last year on a cold day just like this. He gave his bride a bundle of wool and half a loaf of sweet bread. She smiled like it was gold. She moved into his hut that night. No feast, no priest, just an understanding that they would build a life together, one egg, one root vegetable, one quiet nod at a time. You walk the village path and pass 3 other couples doing the morning chores together. A man splitting wood while his wife gathers kindling. A woman sweeping the doorstep as her husband carries buckets to the field. A boy and girl sharing a strip of roasted beetroot, giggling like they invented laughter. Not everyone pairs off. Some never do. The old widower lives alone near the well, talking only to his goat. Your aunt who never married says it is because no man could handle her opinions. She says it with pride. You believe her. Back home, your mother is boiling nettles for tea. She does not look at you but sets 2 cups on the table. One for you, one for your sister. The tea is bitter green and a little gritty. You drink it anyway. Warmth matters more than taste. Later, you help repair a roof. The thatch has sagged where the last storm pushed through. You climb up with a bundle of straw tied at your hip. The sun breaks through the fog just as you begin casting soft gold across the thatch. Your hands work quickly, stuffing and weaving, binding the roof tight against the coming rain. Beside you, another boy works silently. His hands move like yours, quick and calloused. At one point, your fingers brush. You both glance up, startled. Then you look away. He coughs and mutters something about needing more straw. You let him go without answering. Down below, a woman calls to her child who is chasing geese near the well. A dog barks once. A cart rolls past its wheels, squealing against the damp earth. You finish the patch and climb down. Your arms ache. Your shoulders are dusted with straw. Your sister hands you a slice of bread when you reach the ground. It is small but warm. You nod in thanks. That evening, the village gathers near the chapel for candle blessing. Not for a holy day, just tradition. The priest reads from a Latin book, the words flowing past your ears like water. You understand none of it, but the sound is gentle, comforting. Each family brings 1 candle. Just one. Wax is precious. You bring yours short and stubby, set in a bit of clay. When lit, it smells faintly of honey and smoke. You sit beside your sister. A few other couples sit nearby, close but not touching. The flames dance on every face, making everyone look softer, more real. The priest finishes and no one claps. You all just sit there listening to the wind through the trees and the crackle of wicks burning low. You glance sideways. The boy from the thatch is there too. He meets your eyes. You look away again, but slower this time. Back home, the fire is low. The baby is already asleep, curled like a cat on the furs. Your mother is sewing by candlelight. Your sister hums the same quiet song. You lie down with your hands behind your head and stare at the ceiling. You think about the way your fingers brushed the thatch, the way his hand didn't pull away too fast, the way the candlelight made everyone seem kinder. Lice will return tomorrow. The stew will be thin. The work will be hard. But tonight you feel almost clean, almost human, almost in love. The sun rises late today, reluctant behind a curtain of cloud. The air feels thick, not just with moisture, but with the slow weight of a day that knows it must begin, but does not particularly want to. You wake to the soft snuffling of a child and the creak of the wooden bench as your younger brother stirs. His small feet poke from under the blanket, toes curled against the chill. You reach down gently, cover them again, then sit up and stretch. Your back whispers a complaint, but nothing serious. It is still early in the week for serious pain. The morning begins, as always, with movement. You take the water pail and step outside, blinking against the gray sky. The village is quiet, but not still. Chickens ruffle their feathers and mutter to themselves. A cow lowing in the distance complains like a church bell with opinions. You make your way to the well. Along the way you pass a child no older than 5. She is dragging a bundle of kindling wrapped in cloth, her small hands red from the cold. She smiles at you and says nothing. You smile back and say nothing either. This is how mornings go. You lower the bucket into the well, listen, as it descends with a creaky protest, and hear the splash as it strikes the water. You draw it up again, your arms straining slightly, and fill your pail with the icy reward. You pause to drink from your cupped hands, and the cold strikes your teeth in a way that feels both painful and honest. At home, your mother is feeding the baby mashed peas and a strip of soft bread soaked in broth. The baby frowns at both and then tries to eat your mother's sleeve instead. You sit down beside them, accept your own portion of gruel, and eat slowly. It is warm, and there is a hint of wild garlic. Luxury. After breakfast, you are sent to help your aunt prepare for wash day. Laundry is not done often, and it is never done quickly. The garments are few, but the dirt is persistent. You haul buckets to the edge of the stream where your aunt is already scrubbing a tunic against a flat stone. She greets you with a tilt of her head. The water is freezing. Your hands go numb within minutes. Still you scrub. The cloth is rough-stained and full of small holes. You press it against the stone, pour ash lie over it, then rinse again and again. Beside you, your aunt hums tunelessly. A song with no words, only rhythm. The same rhythm as your hands against the stone. Children dart through the shallows, chasing each other with sticks, their feet bare and red. One falls and laughs. No one scolds them. There is no energy for scolding when the washing must be done before the rain comes again. As you rinse a shirt that might once have been white, your cousin joins you with a basket of rags. She drops it beside you and sighs. Her face is flushed and there is flour on her apron. She must have come from kneading dough. She tells you that bread will be ready by dusk. You nod. Something to look forward to. By midday, your arms ache from wringing, and your fingertips sting from the cold. The garments are draped across branches, fences, and even the shoulders of a broken cart. They flutter in the wind like tired flags. You return home with damp sleeves and raw palms. Your sister is sweeping the floor with a bundle of tied twigs. She steps aside as you enter and gestures to the stew pot. It is barley again with a trace of wild mushrooms. You sit and take a bowl. You eat, you breathe, you sit longer than needed. After lunch, your mother asks you to gather herbs with her. You take a basket and follow her out to the edge of the fields where the wild things still grow. She teaches you to spot plantain dock and wood sorrel. She shows you how to tug the roots without snapping them, how to shake off the bugs, how to fold the leaves carefully so they do not bruise. You ask her how she learned. She says from her mother and her mother before that. She tells you stories of when you were small, how you tried to eat a dandelion root raw and threw up beside a fence. You laugh, then realize you still do not like dandelion root. The sun peeks out briefly from behind the clouds, just a sliver of gold on your cheek. You close your eyes and let it sit there. It feels like something rare. On the walk back, you pass the old well. Not the village one, but the broken one near the woods. Your mother pauses. She says it was once used by the Lord's Father long before your time. She touches the moss-covered stones with reverence as though they still hold voices. She tells you of a winter when the well ran dry and the villagers had to melt snow for weeks. She says that was the year your uncle died. Not from thirst, but from the cold that followed. You nod and say nothing. There are some stories that live better in silence. Back home, the baby is crying again. Your sister soothes him with soft humming and her thumb. Your brother tries to juggle pebbles. He drops all 3. He tries again. You cheer him quietly when he manages to. Your mother begins sorting the herbs. Some are dried, some are tied into bundles for tea. The rest are boiled into a bitter paste she rubs on your cousin's sore knee. He winces but says nothing. He knows it works. Later that evening, a group of women gather near the oven to prepare a shared batch of bread. Each brings flour, salt, a little water, and their hands. They knead side by side, their movements almost identical. One woman sings and the rest hum along. The oven burns hot, its mouth glowing red in the dimming light. You sit nearby pretending to whittle a stick. Really, you are watching. The way they move, the way they speak without looking at one another, the way their laughter softens even the smoke. When the loaves come out, they smell like warmth itself. You are handed a small one barely bigger than your fist, but still hot. You tear off the end and eat it in slow, reverent bites. The crust is crisp, the inside is soft. It is only flour and water, but it tastes like hope. Back at the house, your sister finishes braiding her hair. Your mother stitches a tear in your tunic. The baby sleeps with a fur tucked under his chin. You lie on the floor beside the hearth and let the warmth creep into your back. You think of the herbs, the bread, the song by the oven, the way the women work together like a single creature with many hands. There is no wealth here, no freedom, no glory. But there is rhythm, there is care, there is family, and that tonight is enough. It starts with a drip, just a single hesitant pat against the roof, then another, then two more in quick succession like a child tapping their fingers on a tabletop. You look up from your bowl of morning broth and listen. Rain, again. You stand and walk to the doorway, pull aside the curtain, and watch as the drops gather speed. Within minutes, the village is cloaked in it, soft, steady, endless. The kind of rain that settles in for days, not hours. The kind that soaks through wool and skin and bone and then stays for dinner. Your boots are already damp from yesterday. You pull them on anyway. The door creaks open and a gust of wet wind greets you with a slap to the cheek. You step out, cloak over your shoulders, hood up, and begin the day. The road is mud now, not just muddy, it is alive. It grabs at your boots, with each step tries to steal them right off your feet. Chickens peck grumpily at puddles. A pig trots by with a leaf on its head like a strange hat. You nod respectfully. He seems to be managing better than most of you. Today's job is checking the drainage ditch near the lower field. If it overflows again, the cabbage rows will drown. You and two others trudge through the muck shovels slung across your backs, rain pouring down your arms. You speak little. There is nothing to say that has not been said already. When you reach the ditch, you see the water already rising. Frothy brown waves swirl around a half-block channel. You sigh. The ditch was cleared last week, but it does not matter. The rain always returns faster than you can dig. You wade in. Your boots fill with water almost immediately. You ignore it. Your arms move like they remember the motion on their own. Dig, lift, toss, dig again. The mud resists. The shovel slips. You nearly fall twice. Beside you, the other boy swears softly. The third says nothing, just works faster. You do not stop until the water flows again, rushing through the channel with a sound that almost feels like applause. You sit on a stone, panting, soaked through, and watch it drain. Then you stand and trudge home again. No victory, just one less disaster for today. The rain does not ease. If anything, it thickens. The air grows colder. Your cloak clings to your arms, your back, your legs. It feels like being hugged by a dying sheep. At home, the fire is struggling. The wood is damp. Your mother is fanning it with a scrap of parchment. Your brother is coughing. Your sister is wringing out her hair into a bowl. You add what dry sticks you have and sit near the hearth. You peel off your boots and empty them. A small frog hops out of one. You blink. It blinks back. You both decide to ignore each other. Later, you are sent to check the roof. Water is dripping through a weak patch. You climb up with straw and pitch and your cold, shaking hands. The rain pelts your face. Your knees sink into the thatch. You feel the leak with your fingertips and press the straw into it, sealing it with thick black pitch scraped from a pot by the fire. It smells like smoke and wet leather. You finish just as thunder rumbles in the distance. Not loud, just a low growl to remind you that the clouds have more to give. Down below, your sister is collecting rainwater in jars. She lines them along the edge of the hut one by one, careful not to spill. It is clean water at least. That is something. The animals are not so lucky. You help your cousin gather the chickens into the lean-to. One of them bites your finger. You yelp, then laugh. then yelp again as another one pecks your ankle. The goat refuses to move from her spot beneath the willow tree. She looks at you like this is all your fault. You finally lure her with a crust of bread and a promise you do not intend to keep. By evening, the rain has become a constant companion, a sound so steady that it disappears into the background like your own heartbeat. Dinner is warm, though sparse. Turnip stew thickened with barley. The pot hisses softly on the fire. Your family gathers close. You sit shoulder to shoulder, knees touching, steam rising from bowls in little clouds. Your mother tells a story as you eat, a tale about a fox who outwitted a hunter by hiding inside a hollow log and pretending to be a priest. The baby laughs at the wrong parts. You laugh with him. After the meal, you help with mending. A tear in your tunic from a sharp branch, a hole in your sock. Your fingers are clumsy with cold, but the rhythm helps. Stitch, knot, trim, stitch again. The dog curls by the fire. The pig snorts in her sleep outside the door. You can still hear the rain, but it sounds less sharp now, like someone humming far away. Historians still debate how medieval peasants coped with constant bad weather. Some say they simply endured. Others claim entire villages developed a kind of stoic humor. You think it is both. Endurance and laughter stitched together like two patches on the same worn cloak. You lie down that night on your straw mat, damp but warm. You wrap yourself in the rough blanket and listen. Rain on thatch, breath beside you, the slow crackle of the fire, and a heart that is still beating. Hunger is not a loud thing, it does not shout or wail. It settles in quietly like mist along the ground. It curls around your ribs, tugs gently at your limbs, softens your thoughts. Hunger makes you move slower, blink longer, dream wider. This morning you wake not because of noise, but because your stomach aches with a cold, hollow persistence. You roll onto your side and press your hand to your belly as though that will soothe it. It does not. You sit up and look around the room. The fire has gone out. Your sister is still asleep, her arm draped protectively over the baby. Your mother is already gone, likely out looking for dandelion greens or wood sorrel. You stand, stretch, and feel your spine click. Your boots are stiff. You tug them on anyway and step outside. The village is quiet. Too quiet. There is no sound of cooking, no laughter, not even the usual squawk from the hen that thinks she owns the path. You walk to the center of the village where the notice board stands, though there are rarely notices. Today there is one. A scrap of parchment nailed roughly to the wood. You step closer. A grain shortage. The steward writes that there will be no distribution this week. The Lord's stores are low, he says. The harvest was poor, he says. Be patient, he says. You read the words once, then again, then walk away without tearing it down. Everyone will see it soon enough. You head toward the field, not to work, but to look. The soil is bare now, dark and sleeping. The last of the root vegetables were pulled a week ago. What remains are the ghosts of rows, the indentations of labor without reward. A child walks by with a stick poking at molehills. He looks up at you and smiles with cracked lips. You try to smile back. It does not reach your eyes. At home, your sister has started boiling water with a handful of old onion skins. The color will trick the eye into thinking it is soup. You help her crush dried nettle leaves into powder. They go into the pot, too. The smell is sharp and earthy. It is not unpleasant. It is simply not enough. Your brother returns from the woods with a handful of mushrooms. You examine them carefully, flipping each cap, checking for the dangerous ones. You recognize most. You hope the ones you do not recognize are at least not fatal. Into the pot they go. You sit by the fire and stir the thin brew with a stick. The children watch you, eyes wide. You give them the first cups. They slurp it down quickly, licking the sides for any leftover warmth. You sip yours slowly. It tastes of leaves and desperation. After the meal, you go scavenging. Not in the forest that is forbidden, but along the fence lines near the old animal pens. Sometimes things grow where no one looks. You find a handful of chickweed and 2 wilted carrots someone must have missed. A victory. You carry them home like treasure. In the afternoon, a man collapses near the chapel, not from injury, just from hunger. His wife fans his face with a torn cloth. The priest comes out, mutters a blessing, and sends someone for water. The man sits up after a while, blinking like he has just returned from somewhere far away. You watch from a distance, arms cross the carrots in your pocket. You do not offer them. You should, perhaps, but you do not. That night, your sister asks for a story. Something old, she says, something warm. You try to remember one your grandfather used to tell, about a fox who tricked a bear out of a full meal. You do your best to tell it well, adding details where your memory fails. You make her laugh. That feels like eating almost. Later, you lie on your back, eyes open. You think about bread, thick crust, soft inside. You imagine the way it smells, the way it crackles under a knife, the way it lingers in your teeth. Historians still argue how often medieval peasants faced famine. Some claim it was rare and regional. Others insist it was as common as mud. You know which side you believe. You have tasted it. In your dreams, you sit at a table. Not a grand one, just a wooden bench, a bowl before you. In it is soup thick enough to hold a spoon upright. You eat and you do not wake up hungry. You wake, of course. You always do. But for a few seconds, your mouth still tastes of barley and wild herbs. You rise slowly, gather your cloak, and begin again. Because hunger is quiet, but so are you, and you are still standing. You've been feeling weak lately. Not the kind of tired that passes with rest, but the slow unraveling that clings to your limbs like wet cloth. Your hands tremble slightly when you lift the bucket. Your knees ache even before the day begins. You tell yourself it's just the weather, just a cold coming on, just another thin season. Your mother disagrees. She watches you from across the room, her eyes narrow. She says you look pale. You joke that everyone in the village looks pale. She doesn't laugh. By mid-morning, she insists you go see the healer. You protest, of course. You don't feel that bad. You have things to do. But she crosses her arms and says, now. So you go. The healer lives on the far edge of the village, past the stream and the stone marker where the old road used to run. Her hut is smaller than yours, but smells better of dried mint lavender and old apples. Smoke curls from her chimney. A row of bottles lines the window filled with liquids in colors you don't have names for. She is old, of course. Her face is a map of lines, her hands spotted like a winter potato. But her voice is sharp and her fingers still move quickly. She gestures for you to sit on a low stool and asks no questions. She just looks at you as if she can read your marrow like ink. She takes your wrist and feels your pulse, then your other wrist. She leans close, sniffs once, then straightens. She opens a jar, dips 2 fingers into something sticky and dark, and smears it on your tongue. It tastes like old iron and boiled tree bark. You gag. She gives you a cup of something hot, bitter. You drink it. Your stomach rolls once, then settles. You ask what it was. She says leeches might be better. You freeze. She is not smiling. She opens a wooden box near the hearth. Inside a cloth bundle, damp and wriggling. You stare. She unties it and lifts a small black leech between her fingers. It curls, sensing warmth. She moves quickly, one behind the ear, one on your wrist, one on your shoulder. The sting is sharp, but not unbearable. Then it fades into a strange pressure, a slow pulling like your strength is being sucked out gently but purposefully. The healer hums under her breath. You sit still. She watches the leeches fill their slick bodies, swelling like tiny wineskins. She says your blood is heavy, sluggish. She says you have too much bile, too much wind, not enough fire. You nod, though none of it makes sense. Historians still debate whether medieval medicine was entirely superstition or whether fragments of insight lay hidden in the muck. You are too dizzy to have an opinion. Afterward, she removes the leeches and places them in a jar. She wipes your skin with a damp cloth, presses a lump of something pungent into your palm, and tells you to chew it on the walk home. You do. It tastes like garlic and despair. The world feels lighter, but not in a good way. Your legs are soft. Your head floats. You walk slowly, each step careful. By the time you reach the edge of the village, you are sweating despite the cold. Your brother sees you and runs to help. He takes your elbow without asking, steadying you as you make your way back to the house. Inside, your mother tuts and lays you down by the fire. She brings broth thin but hot and presses a damp cloth to your forehead. Your sister offers you a chunk of apple. You nibble it. Later, your uncle stops by. He heard about the healer. He had leeches once, too. He shows you the scar behind his knee where one latched on too long. He laughs about it. You don't. The rest of the day passes in fragments. You drift in and out. You hear rain. Then the crackle of fire, a pot boiling, the baby crying, your name spoken softly, a door creaking. Evening comes with the quiet shuffle of feet, the weight of a blanket pulled up to your chin, the murmur of a prayer spoken not for healing but for rest. You sleep and your dreams are strange. A forest green and gold, a woman with leeches for fingers, a river that sings your name. You wake in the middle of the night to find the fire still glowing, your sister asleep beside you, the dog curled against your legs. You feel no better, but you feel no worse. And for now, that is enough. It begins with a cough, not yours, not this time. A sharp rattling sound from somewhere across the village. You hear it before dawn, before the first rooster stirs, before the smoke rises from a single hearth. You try to ignore it, nestle deeper into the straw, let the sound drift past you like a leaf on the wind. But it comes again, and again. By midday, there are more. Low hacking coughs behind doors, through shuttered windows, in the gaps between conversations. You see a boy with a cloth pressed to his mouth, dark with something that is not just spit. You look away. At first, no one says the word. But it hangs there, a shadow clinging to the corners of every room, every whisper. Plague. The healer says nothing. The priest says even less. But the steward's man arrives by afternoon riding fast, his horse slick with sweat. He speaks only to the priest and rides on. The chapel bell rings 3 times, a warning. You help your mother gather what herbs remain. She sends your sister to boil water. Everything that touches skin must be scrubbed. The bed straw must be turned, the pig pen cleaned. Your brother is sent to fetch more rushes for the floor. By evening, the village feels different. People speak less. Doors close sooner. A woman throws her apron into the fire without explanation. The baker's youngest hasn't been seen since morning. You sit near the hearth with a bowl of stew you don't taste. Your mother moves about the house, lighting candles, muttering old prayers that mix Latin with things older than Latin. Your sister combs her hair slowly as if the motion can push away what might come. The dog refuses to enter the house. He sits by the door, ears low, eyes on the road. You sleep poorly. That night you dream of rats. The next morning you wake to silence, too much of it, the kind that makes your chest tighten. You walk outside and find the path empty. A thin fog clings to the ground. You smell smoke, but not from breakfast fires. It is sharper, acrid. At the chapel, the door stands open. Inside, a man lies on a bench still. The priest stands over him, reading softly from a worn book. A cloth covers the man's face. The priest does not stop when you enter. He does not look up. You leave quickly. By midweek, the village has changed completely. The fields are still. No one sings at the oven. The healer does not open her door. You help your uncle dig a pit behind the chapel. The earth is soft from recent rain. Your hands blister, but you do not stop. When the work is done, you press your back against the chapel wall and close your eyes. Your uncle says nothing. He just walks away. The steward sends word, no travel, no trade, no visitors. You must remain within the village until further notice. That night, your sister develops a fever. Your mother presses a damp cloth to her head, crushes garlic into a paste, murmurs 100 remedies. You sit by the fire, useless, listening to the child's breathing change from soft to strained, soft to strained. The baby cries. You hold him. He does not stop. The next day, your sister's fever breaks. She wakes thirsty, blinking like she's never seen the ceiling before. You laugh. Your mother weeps. You offer her broth and she drinks it with shaking hands. You know not all stories end this way. Others do not wake. You hear them before you see them, the wailing, the low rumble of wheels. A cart carrying more than firewood. One by one the village changes. The butcher's windows stay dark. The smith does not light his forge. The chapel bell rings far too often. And still the rats come. You see them more now. In corners, in doorways. They watch you unafraid. Some say they carry the plague. Some say they just follow death like crows. You place traps. You light fires. It does not matter. At night you lie awake and listen, coughing, crying, silence. Historians still argue over what caused the spread. The ships, the fleas, the trade routes, divine punishment. You do not care. You only know it moves faster than your feet and slower than your hope. You begin wearing a cloth over your face when you go outside. Your sister does too. You rub vinegar on the doorposts. The priest blesses each house from a distance, his prayers carried on wind and doubt. And then one morning it stops. No new coughing, no new deaths, just quiet. The healer emerges from her hut. Her eyes are sunken, her fingers stained. She says nothing but lights a candle in the chapel window. The village exhales. A week passes, then 2. The sun returns, and with it sound. A child laughs. Someone sings while turning soil. The oven burns again, but nothing is quite the same. Some doors stay shut, some beds stay empty, some names go unspoken. You help your mother wash the linens. You hang them in the wind and watch them sway like ghosts. You plant carrots again. You tell your sister the plague is gone. She nods. Neither of you believes it. You never meant to dig so many graves. It starts with one. A small one near the chapel wall. A child barely 3 summers old. You knew her name, though you rarely used it. She belonged to the baker's wife. Always running, always sticky with jam, always singing to herself like she was the only one who could hear the song. She stopped singing last week. You help the priest carry the bundle wrapped in linen. Light too light. You place it gently in the hollowed earth, stepping back as the dirt begins to fall. The sound it makes is soft like rain against a door. The priest says the words. You only understand a few, but they feel heavy enough. You bow your head. The baker's wife does not weep. She simply watches, as though the world has stopped and she is waiting for it to start again. That night you dig another. This one is for the carpenter. Strong hands, quiet eyes. You remember how he used to carve birds from scrap wood and leave them on doorsteps? Your sister has too. She hides them in her apron like lucky charms. You dig deep until the soil is black and cool. The candle the priest holds flickers as he reads. The carpenter's wife clutches his boot in both hands as though it might bring him back. It doesn't. The wind is colder now. The nights come faster. And still the bell tolls. Each time the same ritual, the same path, the same hollowed ground. A farmer, a baby, a girl who once danced barefoot through puddles. You stop counting. There is no space left behind the chapel, so you begin along the tree line. The roots are harder to cut through. You use a borrowed axe. It slips once, grazes your shin. You wrap the wound in cloth and keep digging. One morning the priest does not come to the burial. You find him in the chapel, kneeling before the altar, his head bowed low. He does not speak. You bury the boy alone. The healer begins marking the doors. Charcoal X's, 1 stroke for sick, 2 for dead. You avoid those houses, but you know them well. You helped build their fences, shared your harvest, traded eggs and firewood and gossip. The sound of shovels is constant now. Even the children know it. They do not ask questions. They carry water and bread to the diggers, eyes wide silent. Your hands begin to blister in new places. Your shoulders ache even when you sleep. Dirt lines the inside of your nails no matter how much you scrub. When you close your eyes, you still see the earth being pulled apart. One afternoon, you collapse near the halfway mark. Your cousin hauls you up by the arm and makes you sit. He presses a cup into your hands. It is warm, thick, too sweet. He says it is mead, a gift from the steward to the diggers. You laugh once, then again, too loud. You drink every drop. That night you cannot sleep. The room is too quiet, the air too still. You rise and walk barefoot outside. The moon is full, hanging low over the trees like a watchful eye. You walk to the edge of the burial ground. Rows of stones, some marked, some not. One bundle of flowers tied with string. A wooden toy left at the foot of a fresh mound. You stand in the silence and listen. The wind in the trees, the rustle of dry grass, the breath of the world still turning. You think about the ones who are not here. those who passed quietly buried alone or not at all, a boy who went missing in the woods, a woman whose body was never found, the rat catchers who vanished one by one. Historians still debate how many were lost during the plagues. Some say 1 in 4, others 1 in 3. You do not count by numbers, you count by faces. You return to the house just before dawn. Your sister is awake. She holds a blanket around her shoulders and asks where you went. You say you needed air. She nods. She does not ask more. The next day, the digging slows. The priest walks with you again. The healer's hands shake as she draws another mark. The steward visits the village and says fewer deaths have been reported. You do not believe him, but you nod. The graves remain, but they do not grow as fast. In the weeks that follow, the chapel begins to fill again, not with the dead, with the living. Quiet songs. A cough here and there, but nothing like before. You stop digging. You begin planting. You tear open the same soil that held your neighbors and place seeds inside it. Peas, onions, a patch of rye if the gods are kind. Your hands still remember the rhythm. Dig, drop, cover, press. It feels the same, but it is not quite. It begins with a whisper. She's strange, someone says. Always watching, always alone. Never cries at funerals, never joins the blessing circles. There's something off about her eyes. The woman they're talking about is a widow. Her husband died last winter, lungs filled with ice and silence. Since then, she's kept mostly to herself, tending her tiny garden, feeding her hens, humming songs no one else remembers. You've seen her often walking the edge of the woods at dusk, her skirts brushing brambles, her hands behind her back. You've never thought her odd, just quiet. But now others are looking at her differently. One morning a cow is found dead. No wound, no illness, just collapsed in the mud beside the trough. Its owner mutters that he saw the widow pass by the evening before. A few heads nod. Someone else mentions her herbs. Someone else recalls a child who cried when she entered the chapel. The healer says nothing. She looks tired. The priest keeps his prayers vague. You try not to listen, but the murmurs swirl like smoke. A second animal falls ill, then a third. Rain floods the lower path again despite the new drainage trench. A baby is born early and does not take its first breath. The village begins to lean toward fear. They whisper louder now. They say the widow speaks to things no one can see, that she keeps bones in her pantry, that her garden blooms even in frost. You know it's not true. She gave your mother time when your sister was sick. She mended your uncle's cloak with hands that shook from age, not poison. She cried when the carpenter died, but alone in the fields. But fear is hungrier than truth. It feeds on silence, grows fat on unease. You see it in the way people avoid her now, in the way children are pulled away by the arm, in how the steward glances toward her hut as he rides past, though he never stops. One evening you find a small bundle outside your door. Dried sage marigold petals, a twist of linen soaked in something fragrant. No note, but you know who it's from. You take it inside, hang it near the hearth. Your mother says nothing, but she nods once. That night the baby sleeps without coughing. 2 days later the widow is gone. No one sees her leave. No one speaks of it. Her door is open. A loaf of bread sits on the table untouched. A wooden bowl of beans soaks in water. The fire is cold. You step inside. It smells of rosemary and smoke. On the wall hangs a piece of cloth embroidered with stars. On the shelf are jars labeled in careful faded ink. On the table beside the bread, a small figure carved from wood, an owl smooth and worn, its eyes gentle. You turn and leave without touching anything else. The villagers say she fled. Some say she turned into a bird and flew east. Others believe the rats carried her away. A few whisper that she never existed at all, that she was a spirit, a test, a warning. Historians still debate how many women were accused of witchcraft during the plagues. Some say it was superstition, others say it was survival, one fewer mouth to feed, one more fear to blame. You say it was neither. You say it was loneliness. Weeks pass. The herbs she gave you continue to hang by the hearth. You dry more yourself now, learning slowly which leaves burn and which soothe. You keep a careful jar of nettles. You learn the smell of valerian root. You hum sometimes in the evening when the wind is low. You walk past her hut often. The door swings softly in the breeze. No one dares to close it. One morning, you place a small piece of bread on the windowsill, just in case. Later, you return to find the bread gone. Maybe it was a bird, maybe it was not. You say nothing, but that night your fire burns brighter, and the baby laughs in his sleep. The first time you leave the village is not because you want to, it is because you must. Your mother is sick again, the same hollow coughing that took your uncle last year and your neighbor 3 weeks ago. The healer has done what she can, herbs, broths, prayers, but the illness clings like wet wool. The priest offers comfort, but no cure, and so you go to the shrine. It sits 2 valleys over beyond the old Roman road past the edge of the known. The path is narrow, rarely used, marked more by memory than signs. People speak of it only in soft tones. Some say miracles happen there. Others say nothing happens at all. You pack bread, a flask of ale-dried nettles, and the last apple in the house. Your sister braids a sprig of yarrow into your cloak tie. She says it will keep you safe. You do not argue. The baby watches you go, eyes wide, fingers in his mouth. Your mother sleeps. The air is cold as you walk the sky low and colorless. The fields stretch out behind you, then fall away. Trees rise in crooked lines, their branches like hands reaching for answers. You step carefully through the underbrush, boots crunching on damp leaves. Hours pass. You see no one, just birds watching from branches, the occasional rabbit startled by your steps. A hawk circles once above and vanishes into cloud. The wind carries nothing but the scent of earth and old moss. At dusk, you find a place to rest, a hollow beneath a tree dry enough. You eat a bit of bread, sip ale, and wrap your cloak tighter. The silence out here is heavier. No crying children, no coughing, no distant hammering from the blacksmith. Just your breath. And your thoughts. You sleep badly. Dreams of footsteps you never see, of voices calling your name from too far away. When you wake, the fire has gone out and your cloak is crusted with frost. You rise stiffly and keep walking. By noon, the shrine appears not grand, not holy looking, just a stone structure half collapsed, covered in ivy. A wooden cross still stands crooked but firm. A faded ribbon flutters from a nail on the door. Inside, there are candles melted down to stumps. A statue of a saint whose name you do not know. A pile of offerings, bread, bones, a child's shoe. Someone left a bundle of feathers tied with twine. You kneel. You do not know the words, so you say what you can. You ask for mercy, for strength, for a chance to keep your mother's hands warm through winter. You leave your last apple on the stone. A humble gift. You stay there for a long time, long enough to wonder if anything heard you. Then you rise and begin the walk home. It rains halfway through. You keep walking. The path is slipperier now. You fall once, skin your knee, laugh bitterly. The forest seems quieter than before, like it is listening. When you finally see the village rooftops through the mist, you stop. You take one deep breath, then another. Then you walk the last mile with your head down and your heart clenched. At home, your sister meets you at the door. Her face is pale, but she is smiling. Your mother is awake, sitting, sipping broth, not cured, but stronger. You step inside, wet, bruised, exhausted. You do not say what happened on the road. You just sit by the fire and let the warmth sink in. Later that night, your mother asks where you went. You say to ask for a miracle. She nods as if that's enough. The next day, she walks to the chapel by herself. Historians still debate whether medieval pilgrims believed in real miracles or were just desperate for change, whether shrines held divine power or simply served as places where hope could take shape. You don't care what they think. You know what you saw. You know the frost that melted. You know your mother opened her eyes. You hang a bit of ribbon on your wall. It flutters in the wind, though no window is open, and you do not question it. The soldiers come just after harvest. You hear them before you see them. Hooves pounding armor, rattling like distant thunder, the sharp shouts of men who've never had to plant anything but fear. The village watches from behind half-shuttered doors, faces pressed to cracks in the timber. You're in the field pulling the last of the carrots when the dust starts to rise on the old road. They wear the king's colors, red with a lion stitched in gold thread, shiny, clean. They look out of place here like they were poured from a storybook into the mud. The captain rides ahead, his helmet polished like a mirror, his face unreadable. He dismounts without a word and speaks with the steward. You can't hear them, but the steward's posture says everything rigid, compliant, trying not to tremble. You learn soon enough. The king has called for men, for a cause. A distant war, someone says. Against the French, the Scots, maybe both. No one seems sure, not even the soldiers. It doesn't matter. What matters is the tax. Not just in silver, in grain, in bodies. Each village must send its due. You are not chosen. You're too lean, your knee still weak from the ditch that collapsed last spring. Instead, they take Thomas and Will, the cooper's son, and a boy barely 16, who once gave you half his bread because he said your face looked too thin. They are given no armor, just a long tunic, a wooden spear, and a coin. One coin. Advance pay, they call it. Funeral pay, you think. Their mothers weep quietly. The priest blesses them without much conviction. They are marched out the next morning. No one plays music. The grain tax hits harder. Barrels are opened, baskets filled. The Lord's men take what they claim is fair. It is not. Your winter stockpile shrinks overnight. Your mother stares at the shelves in silence. You do not speak. That evening, the village gathers to count what remains. The steward says there is still enough. You do not believe him. A plan is made to stretch the stores, more lentils, more broth, less bread. Everyone nods like it will work. The next day, the blacksmith sharpens tools in case more are taken. The baker begins using acorn flour. The healer cuts cloth into strips to bandage wounds no one has yet. You pass the chapel and find the priest hanging a new flag above the door, the king's crest. You ask him if he thinks God chooses sides. He does not answer. In the following weeks, letters arrive. The steward reads them aloud in the village square. Victories, losses, more men needed. The letters speak of glory and God's will, but not of food or funerals. No one claps, no one cheers. Your cousin writes back once. He says the mud in France smells like manure and blood, that the horses die first, that he cannot feel his feet anymore. Then nothing. The village settles into a grim rhythm. Work continues, but without song. The fields are quiet. The oven burns less often. The chapel bell rings for no reason anyone admits. One morning a soldier returns. Just one. He walks into the village, limping his clothes, torn, his hands empty. It takes you a moment to recognize him. Will the cooper's son. Older now, thinner. He does not smile. He does not speak much either. He says Thomas died quickly, that the boy did not. He says the king never came to the front. That the nobles drank wine in tents while the men dug graves with spoons. You thank him for coming back. He looks at you like you said something foolish. You watch him sit by the well for hours, staring at the bucket. He never marries, never goes to chapel, never answers when the steward asks for help with repairs. He just sits. Historians still debate whether medieval peasants supported their kings, whether they believed in the wars or were simply swept up by them. Some say patriotism was born in the mud of foreign fields. Others say it was buried there. You know only this: the grain never returned. The coin never grew. The ones who left did not come back whole, if at all. You walk the field one morning and find your shovel rusted at the edge of the plot. You clean it with care. You sharpen it slowly, because you know winter is coming, and you know the war will not feed you, but the soil still might. You almost don't notice the first signs. A ribbon tied to a fence post, a jug of cider passed from hand to hand, a patch of bright cloth pinned to the chapel door. You think it's just someone's birthday. But then the music begins. Not from the manor, this time from the village. Someone has brought a fiddle. The strings creak at first, thin and nervous, but they hold. Then a drum joins in. Just a wooden bowl and a spoon, really. But it's enough. The rhythm catches like sparks in dry straw. It's the feast of St. Martin, or at least that's the excuse. Truthfully, it's been too long since anyone danced. Too many weeks of plague, tax, hunger, silence. People need something, anything, to remind them what it's like to feel light again. You help string garlands made from dried herbs and wilted flowers. Your sister weaves one into your hair while you pretend to protest. She hums the oven song under her breath and you hum with her. The oven is already hot. Bread fresh and brown emerges in a slow procession. A pot of lentils simmers beside it, joined by roasted onions and, miracle of miracles, a goose. No one asks where it came from. No one dares. The children are the first to run. Barefoot, shrieking, cheeks flushed. They chase one another between the cook fires, weaving under benches, dodging shouts from their mothers. You see a boy drop a whole plum into his mouth and grin like he's discovered gold. The old men sit by the stone wall, comparing bad knees and worse memories. One of them pulls out a flute with more cracks than notes. He plays anyway. The tune is wrong but familiar. You dance. Not at first. You watch from the edge. But then someone grabs your wrist, laughing, spinning you into the center. Your boots slip in the dirt, your arms flail, but your face is smiling. Around you faces you've seen every day for years suddenly look new. The baker's wife flushed and laughing flour still in her hair. The blacksmith spinning his daughter like she weighs nothing. The healer holding a mug of cider and nodding along to the beat. Even the priest smiles just once before muttering something about moderation and retiring to his bench. The feast stretches into evening. Torches flicker. Baskets are emptied. Someone juggles apples with only moderate success. A girl sings a song about a knight who fell in love with a turnip. Everyone joins in by the second verse. You eat too much. Your stomach protests, but your mouth keeps moving. Cider runs down your chin. You do not care. You offer the last piece of bread to the dog, and he accepts with solemn dignity. As night falls, a fire is lit in the center of the square, not for warmth, but for story. You sit with your back against a barrel, knees drawn up, eyes half closed. An old man stands and begins to speak, a tale of a king who became a beggar, of a farm girl who tricked the devil with a loaf of bread, of a village that once vanished only to return during the first snow. You listen, barely breathing. Historians still argue about how much joy the medieval poor truly found in their lives. Some say these moments were rare sparks in the dark. Others insist joy was woven into the hardship, inseparable, necessary. You no longer try to untangle the two. You know only that tonight, for the first time in what feels like years, you are not afraid. You stay by the fire until the stars are fully out. Then you walk home slow, full drowsy. Your sister sings softly beside you. The dog follows, tail wagging. The baby carried in your mother's arms snores gently into her neck. At the door you pause. You look back at the flickering light, the silhouettes of dancers still spinning, the smell of smoke and spice in the air, the hum of laughter drifting through the cold. You go inside, lay down, close your eyes, and you dream of music. You begin to notice small changes. Not in the fields, they're the same, still muddy, still reluctant to offer anything without a fight. Not in the manner which stands as distant and indifferent as ever. But in the way people talk, the way they pause before saying yes, sir, the way they frown a little longer when the steward rides past. Something is shifting, not loudly, quietly, like the soft loosening of a knot. It starts with a visitor. A man from another village, cloaked in dust and carrying nothing but a walking stick and words. He spends one night in the chapel, says he's on a pilgrimage, though he never mentions a saint. He speaks of places where peasants no longer bow, of towns where workers ask for coin, not just permission, of harvests that belong to the hands that pull them from the soil. You don't know what to think. It sounds like a story meant for winter nights, the kind with wolves and witches. But your cousin listens with his arms crossed. The blacksmith's apprentice asks questions. The baker offers the man a full loaf, even though flour is low again. By morning, the traveler is gone, but the words remain. A week later, someone leaves a note on the chapel door. 3 words scratched in charcoal. Not just theirs. The priest removes it before the steward sees, but not before everyone reads it. You feel it in the way people start asking different questions. Why the taxes rise when the harvests fall? Why the manor stores grain while your aunt waters soup to make it stretch? Why the Lord's son gets new boots every year when your sisters are patched with twine. No one answers aloud, but the questions hang in the air like smoke. One afternoon, you hear shouting near the smithy. The steward has accused the blacksmith of undercounting his iron. The blacksmith does not deny it. He just stands there, arms folded, soot on his face, and says, "Count it yourself." Everyone goes still. The steward leaves without finishing his sentence. That night, the baker gives away loaves, quietly one per house, no charge. You take yours and say thank you even though you want to say more. Later, your sister tells you that the healer refused to pay the tithe, that she handed the steward a jar of spoiled honey and said it was her final offering, that he left it on the ground. These are not rebellions, not yet, but they feel like sparks. You begin to speak more freely with your cousin as you work the fields. He tells you he once saw a pamphlet from the city, words printed by hand with ink, words that said things you're not allowed to say. He burned it after reading it 3 times. He still remembers every line. You wonder what it would be like to hold your own land, to plant what you want, to sell your carrots to the next village and keep the silver, to build a fence not for the Lord's animals, but your own. Historians still argue whether peasant revolts were inevitable or just accidents of famine and rage, whether the people rose for freedom or food, whether they wanted a new world or just a warmer night. You think maybe it doesn't matter, maybe the two are the same. You keep working, you keep digging. But now when the steward passes, you do not lower your eyes. When the priest preaches obedience, you think of the traveler's stories. When your sister asks why she can't keep her own bread, you say she should. One evening, your mother finds a stone on the doorstep. Carved into it is a single word, soon. No one claims it, no one touches it. You do not sleep much that night, but your heart beats louder than the fear, because something is coming, not winter, something else. And for once, you are not waiting for it, you are walking toward it. The snow comes earlier than expected. One morning you wake to silence, the kind that wraps around the world like wool. When you step outside, everything is white. The fields, the rooftops, the trees, all dusted in stillness. You scoop a handful and let it melt in your palm. Cold, yes, but clean. Clean in a way the village hasn't felt in years. The snow brings a pause. Work slows. The roads vanish beneath the drifts. The steward stays in the manor. The priest lights more candles than usual. The hearth becomes the center of everything again. Inside, your family gathers close. Meals are thin but warm bread toasted over coals broth made from roots and nettles. You eat slower. You chew longer. Your mother has started sewing again, repairing what little you have. Patches on patches, each one stitched with quiet defiance. Your sister reads from an old psalm, the same one she always chooses. This time it feels different. The words settle deeper. The days pass like smoke. You chop wood. You carry water. You press your palm against the window to check the wind. But you're listening too. Every knock at the door makes your heart twitch. Every glance exchanged between neighbors feels heavier than before, because that word soon still lingers. And then one night the bell rings. Not for death, not for prayer. It rings fast, sharp, repeating. You're on your feet before you think. At the edge of the village, near the barley field, they've gathered. 24 figures in cloaks and boots, some holding tools, others holding torches. No banners, no chants, just resolve. The blacksmith steps forward. He says the steward denied grain to the widow with no firewood, that the manor's cellars are full, that patience has fed no one cheers. They simply nod. You follow them down the old path. The manor gates creak open. The guards say nothing. Maybe they're asleep. Maybe they're pretending. It doesn't matter. Inside, the fire burns high. The table is set. No one is sitting at it. The steward appears. He starts to speak. No one listens. He's left standing there with words in his mouth and no one to hear them. In the storeroom, sacks of barley and rye, wheels of cheese, jars of salted meat, all untouched, all counted, all claimed. You carry out what's needed, no more. Just enough to survive the winter. Back at the village, the bread is distributed house by house, quietly, equally. A loaf for the healer, a sack for the woman who lost her son last spring, a pouch of oats for the carpenter's widow. You eat dinner that night in silence. not from fear, but from fullness. Your mother ladles stew into your bowl and says nothing. Your sister breaks bread with her hands. The baby laughs for the first time in days. No one talks about the manor the next morning. The steward is gone. The Lord does not return. Spring arrives early. The soil softens faster than expected. You plant again. You dig again, but something is different. The work feels heavier in your hands but lighter in your chest. No one bows when the priest passes. The steward's house stays empty. The blacksmith's fire burns longer. A new roof goes up on the widow's hut. It's not freedom, perhaps, not yet, but it's the beginning of something that feels like breathing. Historians may call it an uprising, or a footnote, or nothing. You call it a seed. You walk the field one morning, rake in hand, and find the frost melting into furrows. In the windowsill, the carved stone that once said, "Soon," is worn down now. The letter's faded. You leave it there anyway, because you remember, because you endured, because the land is yours now if only in your bones, and because the soil still listens. The wind outside softens. The snow that once blanketed every roof, every path, every furrow now begins to retreat in small, glistening rivulets. You hear it dripping from the eaves, slipping into the cracks of the earth, whispering that spring is coming, not yet here, but close, close enough to hope. You sit by the hearth, wrapped in a cloak that smells of smoke and time. The fire has settled to a slow glow. No crackling now, just the soft shifting of embers as they rest. The room is quiet. Your sister's breath rises and falls beside you in gentle rhythm. The baby sighs in his sleep, dreaming of things he cannot yet name. You lean your head back, eyes half closed. Your muscles no longer ache the way they used to. The weariness you feel tonight is not of hunger or sorrow. It is the kind that comes after doing what needed to be done and knowing somehow that it mattered. Outside, a rooster rustles in its roost. The dog shifts by the door, sniffs the air, then settles again. The village sleeps, not with fear, not with tension, but with the deep calm of people who have seen darkness and stayed standing. You take one more breath. It tastes of wood smoke and cold stone, but beneath that something else. Possibility. There will be more winters, more floods, more illness, more grief, but there will also be more planting, more bread, more music around the fire, more babies born into quieter seasons. And now you know how to hold those things gently. Now you know you can survive. So tonight you let go. Let your thoughts drift. Let your body sink into the straw. Let the warmth of the coals seep into your hands. There is nothing more to do now. Nothing to fear. Only rest. Only quiet. Only sleep. Good night.